Every Motown star signed the same contract. 8 of them paid for it with their health, their money, and their lives. Every one of them signed the same contract. Every one of them walked into the same building, sat across from the same desk, and put their name on a piece of paper that the label's lawyers had reviewed, and they had not. Every one of them was young. Most of them were teenagers. None of them had legal representation. Tonight, we are not counting hit records. We are counting the price. Number 8, Martha Reeves. Before I tell you what Motown took from this woman, let me tell you who she was. Because the way this story begins is the part that tells you everything you need to know about how the label saw her. Martha Reeves did not arrive at Hitsville, USA as an artist. She arrived as a secretary. She was answering phones, handling audition logistics, doing clerical work for the A&R department, when one day Mary Wells failed to appear for a recording session and union rules demanded a vocalist on the microphone. The studio staff looked around. Secretary Reeves was hastily tapped to sing. She grabbed the mic. She was that good, and from that moment, the woman who had been answering their phones was suddenly the artist who would record Heat Wave and Dancing in the Street, 2 of the most enduring records in the history of soul music. Between 1963 and 1967, Reeves became one of the top-selling hitmakers of the label, second only to Diana Ross and the Supremes. Second only. And still, Berry Gordy redirected the label's primary resources and attention toward Ross's group, deepening a divide that Martha Reeves would feel in her career and in her body. There is a name further down this list where what happened was not carelessness and it was not neglect. It was something more deliberate than both. We will get there, but for now, stay with Martha. The Motown touring schedule in the 1960s was punishing. Constant performances, constant travel, very little rest. Physicians began prescribing Martha Reeves Valium and painkillers not to treat an illness, but to manage exhaustion from the relentless touring and performance demands, rather than recommending rest. She later recounted that she was unaware of their addictive potential at the time, and I need you to hold that for a moment. This was one of Motown's most valuable artists, and the institution that built itself partly on her voice let the schedule continue until the woman broke. Her substance abuse culminated in a severe crisis, resulting in a nervous breakdown and involuntary commitment to a mental health facility where she was restrained in a straitjacket. If you grew up with Dancing in the Street or Heat Wave in your house, sit with that for a moment, because the woman who gave you those songs came to Motown as a secretary, and she left with far less than she deserved. In 1983, she successfully sued Motown for back royalties. The terms of the settlement were never made public, which tells you something. Number 7, Eddie Kendricks. Eddie Kendricks co-founded the Motown singing group The Temptations and was one of their lead singers from 1961 until 1971. He arrived in Detroit from Birmingham, Alabama, with his best friend Paul Williams, a friendship that began in elementary school and would anchor one of the greatest vocal groups in the history of American music. His falsetto was among the defining voices of the Motown era. The way you do the things you do. Get ready. Just My Imagination. Running Away With Me. That last record reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in April of 1971. By the time it got there, Kendricks had signed a solo deal with Motown's Tamla division and was preparing to leave the Temptations. His biggest hit with the group played on radio stations while he was walking out the door. For years inside Motown, Kendricks and his bandmates had no meaningful creative control, no financial transparency, and no real leverage. The contracts ensured it, and so he stayed and recorded and performed for longer than he should have, because leaving Motown was not a free act. When Eddie Kendricks finally exited the label in 1978, he was required to sign away the rights to his royalties as a condition of his release. He gave back the income from the records he had spent his career making. That was the cost of the door. His solo career found real success. Keep On Truckin' reached #1 in 1973. Boogie Down reached #2 in 1974. But Motown had already set the terms of what came after. Without creative or financial control while he was there, and without royalties once he left, the foundation was never solid. In late 1991, Kendricks was diagnosed with lung cancer. In the hope of preventing its spread, doctors removed one of his lungs in surgery. He had no health insurance. Bobby Womack organized benefit concerts to help cover the costs for his family, because the royalties Eddie Kendricks had earned over a decade of making records for Motown were no longer his. He also sued Motown Records, claiming that royalties owed to him had been withheld. Before the case could be settled, the cancer reappeared. On October 5, 1992, Eddie Kendricks died at age 52 at Baptist Medical Center in Birmingham, Alabama, the city where his story began. Real talk, only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 6, Mary Wells. Mary Esther Wells signed with Motown at the age of 17. She walked into Berry Gordy's building with a song in her pocket, a song she had written herself, intending to sell it. Gordy heard her voice and signed her instead. And for the next 4 years, Mary Wells built Motown. Not Berry Gordy's version of Motown, the real version, the original version, the version that put that label on the map. She was Motown before Motown knew what it was. She was the first solo artist on the label to produce a top 40 crossover single. When My Guy exploded in 1964, it became Motown's first #1 pop hit by a female artist, crossing racial and cultural lines, playing everywhere from teen dance shows to adult radio. She opened for the Beatles on a British tour that same year. She was, without argument, the Queen of Motown. And I will say clearly what most people still avoid saying. The system was not broken. It worked exactly as it was designed to work, for one person. And that person was not Mary Wells. On her 21st birthday, Wells called Gordy and asked him to come to her apartment and told him she wanted to leave, her contract having expired on her birthday. She was old enough now to contest what she had signed as a minor. She walked away. What she no longer had was Gordy's ear for a hit, or songwriters like Smokey Robinson on call. She never again had a top 20 pop hit on the US Billboard charts. After number one, after the Beatles, after defining the sound of an era, the hit stopped and did not come back. Industry accounts suggest the machinery quietly moved against her. Whether that can be fully documented is another matter, but the results speak for themselves. In 1990, Wells was diagnosed with laryngeal cancer. Treatment saved her life, but destroyed her voice, the very thing that had defined her. Singing was no longer possible. Without health insurance, medical bills piled up. Wells sold her home. Fellow artists including Diana Ross, Martha Reeves, members of The Temptations, Bruce Springsteen, and Bonnie Raitt made donations to support her. In 1991, Wells brought a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Motown for royalties she felt she had not received. She reached a settlement. It came far too late and for far too little. Some of you are going to look her up after this ends. Good. That is exactly the point. Mary Wells died on July 26, 1992. She was 49 years old. The woman who was Motown's first superstar died without the security that her work had earned for everyone else. Number 5, Marvin Gaye. $9.2 million. At the time of his death, Marvin Gaye had accrued $9.2 million in debt, $4.5 million of which was owed to the IRS in back taxes. A man who had recorded "I Heard It Through the Grapevine" and "What's Going On" and "Let's Get It On," a man whose voice is among the most recognized in the history of recorded music, died $9.2 million in debt. And I want to be precise about how that happened. Marvin Gaye joined Motown in 1960. He helped build the label. He then tried to redefine it, and the label resisted. When he brought "What's Going On" to Berry Gordy in 1970, Gordy refused its release, feeling the song was too political for radio, and fearing Gaye would lose his crossover audience. Gaye responded by deciding against releasing any other new material until the label released it. Released in January of 1971, it reached number 1 on the R&B charts within a month. Rolling Stone would later rank it the greatest album of all time. The years that followed were ones of accumulating crisis. Bouts of depression, 2 failed marriages, one of which cost him $600,000 in royalties from his 1978 album, Here My Dear, which recounted the fallout of his first marriage, and a heavy substance abuse addiction had led him to filing for bankruptcy and seeking temporary tax exile in Europe. In the years leading up to his death, Gaye had been cash-strapped and sold the majority of his music royalty rights to Motown in order to address mounting obligations. He gave the music back to get out from under what the music's earnings had built. He died without a will, presumably because he didn't think he had anything left to leave behind. He was shot by his father on April 1, 1984, one day before his 45th birthday. He died $9.2 million in debt. He died having sold back the recordings he had made. He died having given Motown everything twice. And whether the industry made that decision about how to structure his financial obligations consciously or not, I think you already know the answer. Number 4, David Ruffin. During his run as The Temptations' primary vocalist, Ruffin led the way on such songs as 1965's My Girl, the group's first Billboard Hot 100 #1, as well as Ain't Too Proud to Beg, Beauty Is Only Skin Deep, and I Wish It Would Rain. This was the voice, the one the world recognized, the one that made the label tens of millions of dollars. Ruffin's ego reportedly increased dramatically during this period, and his spotty work ethic and demand for top billing led to his removal from the group in 1968. Ruffin was devastated by his dismissal. The anchor the group had provided was gone, and he began a personal roller coaster of financial trouble and drug addiction that would continue until his death. He had 2 significant solo hits in a decade. He was convicted of tax evasion and served a 6-month prison sentence in 1982. When he was arrested on a drug charge in 1988, Ruffin told a judge he was penniless and living in a friend's mobile home outside Detroit. This name deserves to be in your memory after today, because the story of David Ruffin is not a cautionary tale about excess. It is a story about what happens when someone who was built to perform within a structure is removed from it, without support, without financial security, and without the protections the contracts he had signed ensured would never exist. After completing a successful month-long tour of England with Eddie Kendricks and Dennis Edwards, Ruffin died on June 1, 1991, from an accidental overdose of crack cocaine. He was 50 years old. He had reportedly collapsed at a West Philadelphia crack house and was taken to the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania, where he was declared dead at 3:55 in the morning. His New York agent said he had been carrying the proceeds from the British tour in a money belt. Police later recovered the briefcase he carried, but the cash and traveler's checks were missing. Authorities found only $53 on his body. Number 3, Paul Williams, The Temptations. I need you to know who Paul Williams was before I tell you what happened to him, because the gap between those two things is one of the reasons this list exists. Paul Williams was a founding member and original lead singer of The Temptations. He met Eddie Kendricks in elementary school, a friendship that would anchor one of the most celebrated vocal ensembles in the history of popular music. He was the one who gave The Temptations their choreography, the synchronized footwork, the formations, the movement that made the group look as precise as they sounded. He was also a gifted baritone, with lead vocals on records that have never left the radio. He suffered from sickle-cell anemia, a condition that caused chronic pain and contributed to his overall health decline. He was managing it through years of relentless touring, a schedule Motown set and did not adjust for his condition, because the contract did not require them to. Life on the road led Paul to alcoholism. His brother Otis Williams once said, "So to see a guy come from drinking milk to drinking, sometimes 2 to 3/5 of Courvoisier a day, that was kind of hard to take." His bandmates knew. They took turns raiding and draining his alcohol stashes, tried personal interventions, and kept oxygen tanks backstage for him. They tried to intervene, and the touring continued. That is the truth of what happened. and it deserves to be said clearly. By April 1971, Williams was finally persuaded to see a doctor. The doctor found a spot on his liver and advised him to retire from the group altogether. Now spending most of his time at home, Williams continued to be troubled by marital and financial problems. He and a girlfriend had opened a celebrity fashion boutique, which ultimately failed, leaving him with significant debt, reportedly over $80,000 in taxes. He remained close to the group, especially as choreographer, and started recording solo material in early 1973. The solo single he recorded was called Like Givin Up. After Paul Williams was found dead on August 17, 1973, a gun near his body, the death ruled an apparent suicide, Motown decided to shelve the single because the title was just too literal to bear. I need you to feel the weight of that. The man recorded a song called Feel Like Givin Up, and then he did, and the label that held the recording quietly shelved it. Williams' family accused Motown of not paying any royalties after the singer died. The family claimed it was owed $195,000. Motown said the family could not pursue royalties that were more than 6 years old. The family eventually settled in March 1988 for $96,520, 14 years of fighting, for the legacy of a founding member. Paul Williams was 34 years old. He left 5 children behind. Number 2, Tammi Terrell. You know this song, Ain't No Mountain High Enough. It has been with you for a long time, in films, in television, in the steady rotation of songs that define what love is supposed to sound like. You know the song, but knowing the song and knowing what it cost the woman who sang it, those are two different kinds of knowing. Let me give you the second one. Tammi Terrell signed with Motown in 1965 on her 20th birthday. With Marvin Gaye, she scored 7 top 40 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Your Precious Love, Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing, You're All I Need to Get By. These are not just songs. They are permanent fixtures in the architecture of American culture. On October 14, 1967, while performing Your Precious Love with Gaye at Hampden-Sydney College in Virginia, Terrell collapsed into Gaye's arms on stage. She was 22 years old. She had been complaining of headaches for months through the tour. She kept performing, and then she fell. Doctors diagnosed a malignant tumor on the right side of Terrell's brain. She underwent brain surgery in January 1968. After recovering from her first surgery, Terrell returned to Hitsville Studios and recorded You're All I Need to Get By. Despite her optimism, her tumor worsened, requiring more surgeries. Terrell's illness was at first downplayed by the Motown Records publicity machine, while new material by the duo of Gaye and Terrell was still being released. Many of the singles released under their names were created by laying Gaye's vocals over existing recordings of Terrell made prior to her illness. I know. I felt the same way when I found this. The label continued issuing records under her name while she was in a hospital room, building revenue on recordings made before the collapse, releasing them as fresh material, while she lay in recovery from her second surgery, then her third, then her fourth. By 1969, Terrell had retired from live performances as doctors had ordered her not to perform. By early 1970, her ailing condition required her to use a wheelchair. She also experienced blindness and significant hair loss, and her memory had started to fail. She weighed only 93 pounds. On January 21, 1970, Terrell had her 8th and final brain operation and slipped into a coma. She died on March 16, 1970, at age 24. At the funeral, Terrell's mother angrily barred everyone at Motown from attending, except for Gaye, whom she felt was Terrell's closest friend. She blamed the label for what had been allowed to happen to her daughter. Ain't No Mountain High Enough was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1999, 29 years after she died. Number 1. Florence Ballard. Before I tell you what the industry did to this woman, I need to tell you who she was, because that is the part that makes everything else hurt. You know these songs: Stop, In the Name of Love, Baby Love, Where Did Our Love Go, You Can't Hurry Love. You have heard them your entire life. They are the sound of American pop music at the moment it was most alive, the Supremes. She sang on 16 top 40 singles with the group, including 9 number-1 hits. Florence Ballard is the reason that group has a name. She is the one who looked at the list Berry Gordy's staff handed her and chose the word Supremes. She is a founding member. She helped create the sound that turned a Detroit label into a cultural institution. She signed her contract with Motown in January of 1961. She was 17 years old. The contract paid artists a royalty rate of 3% of 90% of the wholesale price, split among all group members. Florence Ballard received her first royalty check from Motown in 1965, 4 years after signing, and after the Supremes had already scored 5 number-1 hits. This is the story I mentioned at the beginning, and now that you have heard everything else, I think you understand why I said what I said about deliberate. In 1967, she was removed from the Supremes. A week before her negotiated release from the label, her attorney received a one-time payment of $139,804.94 in royalties and earnings from Motown, out of millions of dollars, for a founding member, for the woman who named the group. In July 1971, Ballard sued Motown for additional royalty payments she believed she was due. She was defeated in court by Motown. That same year, her home was foreclosed. Facing poverty and depression, she developed alcoholism. By the mid-1970s, Florence Ballard, co-founder of the Supremes, the group that had recorded more than a dozen number-1 singles, had applied for public assistance. She was on welfare, in Detroit, 3 daughters, in a house that was not her own. She died at 32, on welfare, with $16,000 in debt and less than $1,000 to her name. And I want to be precise about what that means. This is not a story about personal failing. This is not a story about the wrong choices of a talented woman. This is a story about systematic financial exploitation orchestrated through manipulated contracts, strategic isolation, forced buyouts, and the deliberate destruction of a Black woman who dared to question the machinery extracting her labor. Florence Ballard died on February 22, 1976. She was 32 years old. The official cause of death was coronary artery thrombosis. The actual cause of death was a system functioning exactly as it was designed to function, and the woman on the wrong end of it was one of the most important voices in the history of American music. Tell me in the comments which name on this list stayed with you, which one you already knew, which one you are looking up right now.